Karina, and welcome to my first YouTube video. Well, my first official YouTube video. Everything else that I've ever posted has just kind of been for fun. But anyway, I've had lots of requests from my friends to do a makeup tutorial, and I finally have the nerve to do it. So, I was requested by my friend Lindsay. Hey Lindsay, hope you're watching. To do a smoky eye. So I decided to do these two looks here. I know I look a little crazy because I have two different eyeshadow looks here, but I decided to do a natural smoky eye, which is this eye that you could wear every day, anywhere. It just has that smoky eye effect that you're looking for. And then a more of a nighttime smoky eye, which is this side over here, which uses darker colors. So on this eye, we have a gradient that's like the natural color of your skin tone down to a darker brown. And this one, a dark brown down to a black. Now, obviously you wanna use colors that pertain to your skin tone. So if you are darker than me, which most of my friends are, you wanna start on this eye with a color that's close to your skin tone and work your way down a little bit darker. And as I state later on in the video, on this eye with the darker one, whatever you use for your darkest brown on this eye is usually a good start for this side for the beginning when you're trying to go darker. But everything's up to you. You don't have to use the products that I have in my video. Don't feel like you need to go buy it, especially right now when everybody's in shelter in place and we're all trying to save our money. But definitely use what you have at home. You can make it work with almost every color you have, as long as you have a light, medium, and dark of that shade, of that color. So if you have like a blue or a purple or a red or something like that, and you want to make this in that color instead, you just have to think gradient. As long as you're in the same color family, you can do this technique. This is the easiest technique I've ever learned to use for a easy smoky eye. It's easy, it just takes a little bit extra time because you do have to blend it out. I learned it originally from Kathleen Lights. If you don't follow her, she's pretty great. I've been following her for, I don't even know, probably like 5 years now. But her style is something that I really like to emulate when it comes to my makeup. So this technique is something that I've done a lot that I originally learned from her. So feel free to go check her out. She's a really fun YouTuber to watch. All right, let's get started. All right, so I've already done my face. So I kind of haphazardly did my foundation, my concealer, and eyebrows, all of that. Nothing is super like concealed. Like I still have some dark spots, some redness, so it's not like perfect, but like I said, the purpose of this video is to focus on the eyes. So today we are doing a smoky eye, and I'm going to show you guys the easiest way I have ever learned to do a smoky eye. So I'm gonna start out by showing you guys on one eye a everyday kind of smoky eye, which will be with some natural brown tones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a color. I'm going to take a brush that's really wide and fluffy like this one, and I'm going to take that and dip that into a really, really light brown or cream color, something that's almost the exact same skin tone as your natural eyeshadow. So for me, I'm going to take from this palette, this is the OMG eyeshadow collection from Crown Cosmetics, and I'm going to take these two shades and mix them together, these two right here. But like I said, just find a shade that's almost your eyelid color. Actually, you know, that's actually the next shade I would probably use. So I'm going to use the Tati Beauty palette, the Textured Neutrals Volume 1. And I'm going to start with this color, which is Aura Matte. And one of the biggest things is to use matte shadows for this kind of look. So I'm going to use Aura and then move on to this color and this color. So I'm going to be using Aura Matte, Soothe Matte, and Ritual Matte to get this first look. That way I don't have to keep popping it up for you guys. So the first one is Aura. I'm going to take that one, knock some extra off, And I'm going to take that into the crease. So I'm going to take that mostly into the crease and do like a windshield wiper motion back and forth. I'm going to take it slightly going up, if you can see, going up into my eyebrow, but just leaving like a tiny bit of space up here. So it's basically like rubbing against this edge right here of my eyebrow. Going back and forth. And then I'm going to bring that color down slightly onto the lid, but not all the way to the lash line. Back and forth. There's a lot of blending involved with this, but it truly is the easiest way I've ever found to do a smoky eye. So a lot of people, I feel like, find that smoky eyes are meant to be dark, but really it's just the effect that it has on your eye, like a smoked out look. So you can really do it with just about any color, but the key for the most part is to stay in the same color family. So if you were going to do it in red, you would have like a light red, a medium red, and a dark red. Does that make sense? Okay, now I'm going to take that same color and I'm going to take this brush and I'm going to pinch it between my fingers like that. I'm going to go under my eye because you're going to do the same exact thing under your eye. So because this is the biggest one, it's going to come down on your lower lash down to like this part right here. So I know it's hard to see because it's pretty much my skin tone, but it should be coming down all the way to where the end of my nail is. Please excuse my beat up nails, I need to get them done. Well, I need to do them. So again, just making that even. I also connect it up here so that it's like almost one big fluid motion. And if you ever get like a line here, all you gotta do is take when you come up and then bring it back into and blend it into this part that you had already started. So now I'm gonna move on to our next color. And I'm going to take my next brush, which is another fluffy brush like this one. Now this one is just a tiny bit smaller, not by much. And I'm going to take the next darkest shade, which was Soothe in Matte. Now I'm gonna take that right underneath my crease. So my crease is right here. I'm gonna take it right underneath. And I'm gonna go back and forth in those windshield wiper motions. And I'm going to go down my lid, almost touching my lash line. So I am pretty much following the curvature of my eye. So if you kind of just let it fall on your eyelid going back and forth without having to like measure which way you're going, it should fall pretty naturally when you're going back and forth in those windshield wipers. So don't feel like you have to go a straight line. You should follow the natural curve of your eyelid. Okay, so now you see that there's a slight gradient happening here. So now I'm going to take that same color and do the same thing underneath. I'm going to pinch the brush. Again, because it's a little bit smaller, it's not going to reach as low. Again, connect them. If you get a weird line, just buff it out and go back in. Starting to get that effect here, and now I'm going to go to an even smaller fluffy brush. If I could just find it. Here we go. So I'm just wiping off some color. It's kind of stained from one of the colors that I use, but this fluffy brush, which is slightly smaller, again, now I'm going to dip into Rich Wool Matte, which is the darkest of the browns that I chose. And I'm going to now take this directly on the lash line and go back and forth on the lash line. Now this one you want to be a little bit extra careful because the goal is to have a gradient effect here. So you want it to very naturally go from light to dark. So this one you don't want to do the windshield wiper motion as like aggressively as I did in the previous ones. You almost want to tap it back and forth, tap and swipe, tap and swipe. So you can probably see it from the side a little bit more of how I'm doing this. And then going back in. So I'm gonna get a tiny bit more of that one. So this is more of like a wearable smoky eye. One that you could wear to work, or if you're just going out for lunch with friends, or if you're just one of those people that doesn't really like to have heavy dark eyeshadow, but you want that smoky glam kind of feel. This, I think, will do the trick. So you're coming in almost exactly into that inner corner. If you see where my eye is right here, you should come almost all the way in. And it should be literally on your, like you should feel like you're moving your lashes back and forth. You're directly on that lash line. Okay, now I'm gonna dip back in there. Squeeze the tip underneath the eyelash line, right on that lash line, guys. Again, you see, so now that it's darker, you can kind of see the dark line that's kind of coming here. So this is where I was talking about, where you bring it back in. You bring it back in and you blend that out back into the top lash line. So that it's almost like you're creating a C, a very closed C, obviously. Now, what I'm gonna do now is go back into Ritual Matte, the darkest brown. Slightly darken that lash line, because now we're gonna work our way backwards so that we can blend it all in. So now we're gonna go to that middle shade with that middle brush, back into Soothe, or the middle color brown that you chose. Same direction, you're smoothing out that line that's kind of created on the darkest brown, right on top of that, right underneath the crease, slightly into the crease actually, because you do want this gradient to show. Back to the biggest brush, to your lightest shade. And now we're smoothing out that line, making it a perfect gradient. It's like slightly getting darker into your skin color, I mean. Now, if you feel like you want to do the bottom lashes the same way and you want to retouch it and do it backwards, you totally can. I usually leave it because I feel like the lower lash line has the depth that I want from it. So now you can see that it has that smoky effect. Now, if you want to leave it here, you can just do some mascara and you'd be on your way. But if you do want it to be a little bit more smoky looking, even for an everyday look, you take a black liner and you tight line. So you're gonna tight line underneath, very lightly on the upper lash line, and then very lightly on the lower lash. So it will make your eyes look a little bit smaller. So if you're somebody who has really small eyes and you don't want your eyes to look any smaller, I don't recommend it. But if you do like that, like kind of pierced like look, I don't know how to describe it, but it's almost like your eyes pinched a little bit, then go for it. It does give a different effect, but it will make your eyes look a little bit smaller. I'm gonna use this L'Oreal Voluminous Carbon Black mascara to do my lashes really quick. And there is your everyday natural smoky eye that you can wear any time of the day. So now I'm gonna move on to this eye, and I'm gonna show you how to make it a little bit darker, a little bit more going out tonight, date night, or special event kind of a feel. Now, if you wanna wear this every day, do you, girl, but I'm just showing you my own thing. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to start with the darkest brown that I used on my eye as the beginning shade. So the darkest shade that I used was this one right here, which is Ritual Matte from the Textured Neutrals palette by Tati Beauty. So that is what I'm gonna start out with. Now from there, you're gonna go, if that is your lightest, you're gonna go 1 to 2 shades darker than that and have your last shade be a soft black. I know it's scary, I promise we got this. So going back to that biggest brush, I'm gonna wipe it clean. I'm gonna dip it into Ritual. And I'm gonna go right into this eye, right on the crease, very lightly do it. Now, when you tip in these, if your eyeshadow is very pigmented, you don't want to go straight in ham and go straight into that windshield wiper. You want to just barely touch your eye so that it diffuses in that windshield wiper motion. And once all of the pigment has been put on your eye, you can start going a little bit more ham on it. And just like last time, right underneath that eyebrow right here at the end, that tip should be your guideline of how high up you should go. Windshield wiper following the natural curve of your eye. And bringing that down slightly underneath the crease. Again, very lightly, I'm just adding a little bit more color. I'm barely touching my eye right now, trying to get all the pigment on there first before I start diffusing a little bit more, because we do want this to still have that gradient effect. So this is the exact same technique I did over here. It's just gonna be a little bit darker, just so you can see the difference. So I'm gonna wipe that off, go into that middle color that we used last time, middle brush I mean. And now I'm going to switch to a different palette because there isn't a middle dark on that one. So I'm back to this palette that I showed you first. And I'm going to use this brown down here as my middle brown. I know it looks really dark, but trust me, just like we did with the first one, have a light hand, slowly work your way up in the pigment, tap off the excess so that you're not having a ton of fallout. Oh, actually, I forgot a step. Let's go back to this. That same brush that we had before with Ritual, we forgot to pinch and go underneath. Now, if you feel like you're getting too much pigment on it, just be mindful of how many times you're tapping into it, how much is getting tapped off for the excess, and how much pressure you're putting on your eye, because sometimes it really is about how lightly you put pressure on your eye before you start dispersing all of the color. So now I'm going into that middle brown like I was talking about earlier, just underneath, right underneath the crease of your eye. Going back and forth lightly before I start going ham on this. Adding a little extra pigment. Very lightly. Working my way down, but not all the way to the lash line, just very close. If you look closely, you can see that it's very, very light at that end part. But I'm slowly getting a little bit darker. Once I'm satisfied with that coloring, going back into the crease to blend it into the previous color. And now I'm going back into that darker brown, that medium brown that we chose, pinching it, going underneath my lash line. And one thing that I used to be really nervous about is when people would say underneath your lashes, I used to feel like I had to pick underneath my lashes before I could go. But realistically, once you put them where you want it to be, the lashes kind of move out of your way. So don't be so worried about that and then accidentally getting eyeshadow on your cheek or something. I don't know, that's something I used to worry about until I figured out that it's not really that big a deal. All right, now I'm going to very gently use Matte Memory. Alright, sorry about that. My camera fell over and then I needed to put on a charger, so the angle might be a little bit different now, but we're still on to the smallest brush now. So we already finished doing the darkest shade with this brush, pinched it, went underneath, all that. Just gonna double check to make sure that I'm satisfied with that part. And then if you have that line, again, brushing it over here, blending it into the upper lash or upper eyelid. We've moved on to the smaller brush. And like I said previously, or I don't know if the camera caught it, but I'm going to use very lightly Memory Matte from the Textured Neutral palette, but you can use any matte black that you have. Now, very lightly, I'm going to tap it once. Tap off the excess as much as possible because this is a really, really dark black. We don't want it to be that dark. And then I'm going to do that motion that we talked about earlier where we pat swipe, pat swipe, pat swipe in. Now notice that I started in the middle because I find that if I start in the middle of my lid with really dark colors like this, they're easier to disperse to the sides than if I start right here and bring it in, because then all the pigment's right there and you're trying to drag it all the way to the other side and it doesn't always work. So again, pat swipe right on the lash line. And you can see it slowly getting darker. Going to tap one time again, tap off all the excess. And pat swipe again, pat swipe. Coming into the inner corner very closely. Now the fun thing about doing a natural colors, like neutral colors, Smokey Eye, is that if you want to do an inner corner highlight, sorry about that, some camera issues again, but we just finished diffusing that black on the top lid. Now we're dipping one more time into that dark black, all that excess off, pinching the tip and going right on the lash line very, very lightly. Alright, so now I've gotten as much as I wanted out of the dark black. I'm going to darken it up with whatever's left over on my brush. Okay, now we're going back into what we did last time where we're working our way backwards. So now middle brush, middle brown. Lightly going over the line that we've created, a little bit of a line with the black, blending it so that they blend into one another. And working my way back up towards the crease. Back to our first brown. Pop off the excess. Very lightly putting on the pigment so that we have a nice blend back in. All right. Now, same thing like this eye, you can leave it here. You can just put on some mascara and you're ready to go. But I'm going to use some eyeliner and I'm going to tight line this eye as well. So I'm going to tight line the upper lash line. If you have trouble tight lining, you can always put your finger on your lashes and lightly pull up and look in the mirror and do it. However, I find that if I point it upwards into my eye, not into my eye, but into my lash line, I can do it without having to lift my eyelid. Slowly doing the bottom, I meant lightly. Lightly doing the bottom. Okay, now you've tight lined. Putting on some mascara nice and quickly. Now, if you don't have a steady hand and you're not used to putting on mascara, don't do it as fast as I do. Because you're going to get mascara on your lid, and then you're gonna be mad that you messed up this. And as I told you that, I got it on my nose. Hello. If you haven't learned already, the trick to when it gets on your nose or on your eyelid or something is to not rub it. Don't rub it. Wait. Let it dry, because then you can flake it off. So I'm not going to touch it as much as it's bothering me. All right. So now, I know I look kind of crazy, but you know, it's easier to show you one eye versus the other. At this point, you can grab the highlight of your choice. Now I'm going to take this little kind of pencil brush here. I'm going to dip it into a nice pearly white shade. I'm going to use this as the same highlight on both sides. And what I like to do is I like to not just put it in the corner here, but I also like to drag it in to right where the eyelashes actually start. So I drag it in back and forth here, and then I slightly bring it up here into the beginning of that crease. I just like the way it looks. But you know, you don't have to do that. You can always just leave it in the corner here and just like rub it in a little dot right here and you're good to go. But this is just a preference that I have. Same corner highlight, and use it here. Now I will tell you that it will definitely pop more on the darker one because it's a huge contrast. Oops, excuse me, I have a little eye booger coming out there. So bringing it out here, and bringing it up into the beginning of that crease. Okay, now if you so desire, you can highlight the top of your brow bone. I usually don't when I use matte shades, just because I feel like since it's gradient working its way up, my natural skin tone foundation powder is already kind of doing the highlighting work for me. But if you so choose, you can use a light, you can use either a matte white powder, and I'll show you what that looks like up here. So I'll use this soft white right here, and I'm going to highlight the nice and natural looking one over here on my right side, and I'm just gonna lightly dust right underneath my brow bone. Not a huge difference, but you know, in pictures and sunlight, stuff like that. Now I'm going to take a more shimmery light tone, but close to my skin tone, which is this kind of peachy color right here, this peachy. This one is shimmery. I'm gonna take that one very lightly underneath this one so you can see what that looks like. I'm almost doing the tap swipe motion here too that you saw earlier. Now, I choose colors that are closer to my skin tone, mostly because otherwise it's just like this color that doesn't match is all of a sudden popping underneath your eyebrow, and you want it to blend into what you're doing here. So you don't want it to stand out, you just want it to give a nice pop where your brow bone looks a little bit more lifted, but you don't want it to be like all of a sudden you have this like streak of blue, you know? Exaggerating, but just helping you understand. Very light. So when I choose a shimmer shade, I try to choose one that's close to my skin tone. If I do want it to be a little bit more visible, I'll probably match it to the highlight that I have in my inner corner. Totally up to you. Okay, and now I'm just gonna finish off my face here with some lipstick, even though I look lopsided right now. So you might want to use a nude lipstick. You could totally get away with doing a nice bold lip with either one of these, but I will say I personally would prefer to do a bold lip with the more natural looking side, so that you just have a slight smoky effect to your eye, but your lips are like the main event, and a more natural nudie lip with the darker side so that your eyes are the main event. But it's totally up to you. If you want to have a bold lip because you're going out tonight or something with this eye, do you. That's just my preference. But other than that, we're pretty much done. So I'll give you a close-up. So here is the natural eye. Hopefully it's not too dark for you to see. And here is the more dark eye. Oops, I forgot to take off the mascara. Y'all didn't tell me. Okay. Let's take that off. I'll show you how to do that. So I'll use a spoolie actually. I'm gonna use a spoolie, and I'm going, now that it's somewhat dry, I'm going to scrape it off. Now, oftentimes it'll remove some of your not mascara, your foundation. So if you want to touch it up a little bit. Now right now my nose looks a little bit red, so I might powder it, but I wouldn't full on do it. But I don't know, that's just me. Anyway, this is the look. Now if you wanted to do it with like blue colors and stuff like that, I do have a picture that I think I will put into this video so you can see what it looks like with a turquoise blue when you do that. But just to show you how I did it, I used this palette right here. I started off with these light colors at the top for the lightest shade, and then went into this turquoise and lightly blended this into this color for the medium color, and then used this dark green that's kind of the same color family, and use this dark green at the bottom. And as long as you blend them into each other, it'll still give you that gradient look that you're looking for. So I'll insert, hopefully, if I know how, I'll try to learn how, I'll insert a picture of what that kind of could look like for you. And you can try that out at home. And if anyone has questions on how to do that and you want to see what that looks like, I could do another video, just let me know. All right, thanks guys. I'll see you in my next video.